This morning, the Supreme Court was on a tear with decisions, quite a few. We're gonna focus on a few here today on the damage report, starting with them once again upholding the Affordable Care Act. The attempt by the Republicans to strike down the entirety of the ACA was rejected. They dismissed this challenge on Thursday. It was argued back in November, but it takes quite a while for the decisions to be put together. It's going to leave the law intact and save healthcare coverage for millions of Americans, but also leaving a bunch of people without insurance. Let's just bear that in mind. Anyway, the justices turned away a challenge from Republican-led states and the former Trump administration, which urged the justices to block the entire law. Now, this is not the first time that they've tried to take down the law, but this might be the most pathetic attempt because there was effectively no chance that this could actually work. And we're gonna describe why that is. So the case is California versus Texas. It was brought by Republican officials who said that the mandate requiring health insurance coverage became unconstitutional after Congress back in 2017 eliminated the penalty for failing to obtain coverage because the mandate could no longer be justified as a tax. So previously, if you hadn't had health insurance, you would have to pay a penalty. In 2017, they made the penalty $0. So effectively, it wasn't a penalty. Now, previously, some people thought that the constitutionality of the mandate was allowed because there was taxation involved. That fee was effectively a form of tax. So if that goes away, then theoretically you no longer have that constitutional underpinning to it. And therefore the whole thing can be destroyed. No, that doesn't make any sense. Those leaps are insane, but they really went all the way to the Supreme Court with that being a fairly generous description of their legal case. And it was rejected, not unanimously, but close. The justices said that the challengers of the 2010 ACA law did not have the legal right to bring the case, and how could they? There's no injury. If you're not paying a tax, you can't say that the lack of a tax is hurting you. So anyway, it was a 7-2 decision. Justices Samuel Alito and Neil Gorsuch dissented, but the others, including multiple justices that were put there by Trump, did effectively vote to keep the ACA intact. So Viviana, that's not necessarily what I would have expected. What did you think about this?
I mean, I'm glad that we're still keeping Obamacare in remnants alive. It's funny to me, it's like I was overcharged, but you weren't charged anything. But I was overcharged. That's what they're yelling right now. I was really happy when the Affordable Care Act came into be, mostly because of a lot of the rights women got and women's health got, especially birth control being covered, et cetera. I mean, I was already, in my early 30s when that happened, and for all of my 20s, I was paying for a lot of things that women should not have to pay. So for me, I'm happy. I'm a little bit surprised that that it's held on for this long, because it's really been a tax since it came to be. But I think until they have a better plan, this is what we got. The rest of the United States.
That is true. And so this is the third time that the Supreme Court has had the opportunity to take out the entirety of the ACA and hasn't. Now, bear in mind, they've managed to get through these 3 decisions, well, without ever once really judging the substance of the ACA, whether they believe it's fundamentally constitutional or whatever. They keep finding these ways to effectively say that the people bringing the case don't have standing. And that's not out of the norm for the Supreme Court necessarily, but it leaves just enough opening for some Republicans to think, well, surely the next time we'll be able to get rid of it. And maybe they'll be right. Although I do have to say the fact that Amy Coney Barrett and Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh didn't take this opportunity is certainly interesting. It's possible that they thought they couldn't quite get the majority, so why be on the record for trying to destroy? I don't know. It's complicated, but I'm at least glad that it is still in it's maintaining, because people do rely on it. Now, that's not to say that this is the be all end all, it's the best thing ever. We constantly talk about the need to go way farther, and thankfully, some politicians are making sure that people know that. Bernie Sanders tweeted in response to this, the court's decision to not overturn the ACA and throw 31 million Americans off their healthcare is welcome, but it's not enough. Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. We must join other major countries in guaranteeing healthcare for all and pass Medicare for all. And so, yeah, the ACA sucks in a lot of ways, but it's better than what we had before.
Absolutely, but it is disconcerting that we have so many people who are considered liberals fighting so hard on behalf of the insurance companies continue making their money. Yeah. We can't have, Medicare for all, because then they're not going to make the money that they're making. But perhaps people like Amy Coney Barrett are sort of picking their battles, because if you keep the ACA intact, when you start questioning what should be covered, like abortion, then you have a better argument, to say no, it isn't covered. Mm-hmm. So she might just be wading in the water and kind of seeing what she can get away with now, deciding, if you do get rid of it, then it's an easier argument. And then people come, if you get rid of it and there's no money federally supporting this, then there's really not an argument to ban abortions if they're not federally funded. Mm-hmm. It gets complicated, but really at the end of the day, we're just making sure that people are still making money off of deaths and sickness and illness. I mean, it's pretty sad.
Yeah. I want to throw one additional thing out there, not directly related to this, but we are talking about, the future of our healthcare system. And I saw, take this with a massive grain of salt, but one of the updates in the ongoing infrastructure back and forth negotiations, all that stuff. Jeff Stein of the Washington Post tweeted a new Schumer-Sanders reconciliation package being prepped by Dems, expected to include Medicare to 60. So basically expanding it so that people 60 and older rather than 65 and older could be incorporated under Medicare. Expansion of Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing, which is a big part of the expansion of Medicare for all that Sanders has been pushing for. And so that's like a half a decade better, but it's still, it's not Medicare for all. But I don't know.
Well, we need to get to
if you do 5 years now, you can do 10 later. I don't know.
What's really sad, John, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, or if you have any elderly people in your family that are, beneficiaries of Medicare. Even if you've had private insurance, like my father, for instance, he has had incredible insurance his whole life. He's, been an educator and he's got some good coverage. But once you reach a certain age, your insurance relies on Medicare. They need to pay for everything for you. And then if they don't cover something, then perhaps your own private insurance will. So it's this weird catch-22 with Medicare and private insurance. It's like, yeah, we want you to have private insurance, but when you're older, it won't even matter unless you make so much money that you can pay. I mean, this is like long-term benefits, long-term care. It's not covered. I mean, we really need to look at the elderly population. We're living longer these days. 60 years old, that's young. That's like, you're not even expanding it. My grandmother's 95. So what are we gonna do when our population continues to age? We do not have the coverage or the support to make people comfortable and live in dignity. And it is ruining families. People are taking care of their elderly patients and elderly parents and grandparents. And it's a big financial burden that Medicare doesn't even cover. And your private insurance just backs away and says, well, whatever they cover is what we cover. So it's a real skewed system, and we do need to expand it. That's why it needs to be Medicare for all. It really balances out everything for everyone, and then we can cover a lot more stuff for our elderly, citizens.
Yeah, you're right. Well, look, I'm curious what people think about this potential reconciliation bill. Do you think they're gonna have an expansion of Medicare in it? Whether, in terms of what it covers, which is great, or expanding it to more Americans, feel free to let us know. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.